The sun was high in the sky, casting its golden rays over the quiet suburban streets of Oak Ridge Heights, a small and peaceful neighborhood in the heart of Indiana. On this radiant day, 11-year-old Kiara Daniels stood proudly behind her homemade lemonade stand. Her smile was as bright as the colorful sign that she had so carefully painted the night before. Bold, cheerful letters on the sign proudly proclaimed, "Kiara's famous lemonade, 50 cents a cup," and around the edges, little hearts and hand-drawn lemons added a playful touch. Kiara's stand was set up right outside her family's modest home, a cozy one-story house with a neatly trimmed lawn that spoke of care and simplicity. A large oak tree, its branches sprawling wide and providing much-needed shade, stood near the house. This tree not only offered shelter from the heat, but also lent an air of natural beauty to the scene. Kiara had been awake since the early hours of the morning. With boundless energy and determination, she had spent hours squeezing fresh lemons, meticulously measuring sugar, and perfecting her secret lemonade recipe. Though her mother, Tasha, had supervised the entire process, offering gentle guidance along the way, this venture was entirely Kiara's own project, a determined effort to earn enough money to join her class on a very special field trip to the Indianapolis Zoo. As Kiara stirred the lemonade in a large glass pitcher, a soft summer breeze drifted through the neighborhood. This gentle wind carried the tangy, citrus aroma of freshly squeezed lemonade down the street, inviting passers-by to stop and take notice. With a wave full of enthusiasm, Kiara greeted every neighbor who walked by, her eyes sparkling with hope and excitement for the day ahead. It wasn't long before Kiara's first customer arrived. Mrs. Andrews, a kindly neighbor from the house next door, came by with a warm smile and a friendly greeting. With a generous spirit, she handed over a quarter, paying for a cup of Kiara's delicious lemonade. "This is delicious, Kiara," she said, taking a careful sip from her paper cup. "You're going to sell out in no time." Her encouraging words sent a surge of confidence through Kiara's heart. Outside, the gentle hum of cars passing by provided a supportive backdrop. Some drivers honked in appreciation, while others waved their hands in friendly acknowledgement. As more people stopped to buy a cup, Kiara's tip jar began to fill steadily with small bills and coins, each one a symbol of the support and pride she felt in her work. Across the street, a group of children played a lively game of basketball in a driveway. Their laughter echoed, and every so often one or two of them would glance curiously at Kiara's brightly decorated stand. One of the boys, who seemed to be about Kiara's age, eventually jogged over to her lemonade stand and, with a bright smile, handed her $1. "I'll take 2, he said, flashing an enthusiastic grin. "Coming right up," Kiara replied with the kind of confidence that only a determined entrepreneur could muster, carefully pouring 2 fresh cups of lemonade for her new customer. By early afternoon, the sun had warmed Kiara's cheeks to a rosy hue, and a quick glance at her little notebook revealed that she had already made $15, well on her way toward her goal of $50. Just then, her mother Tasha stepped out of the house, carrying a wide-brimmed hat to shield her daughter from the sweltering heat. "You're doing amazing, baby," Tasha said, her voice full of pride. Kiara's face lit up as she looked up at her mum. "Thanks, Mum. I think I'm getting better at pitching to customers," she replied, beaming as she handed out another cup of lemonade. Not long after, the distant sound of motorcycles began to rumble through the air. At first, the sound was faint, like a low, steady vibration, but it quickly grew louder and nearer. Kiara squinted down the street, shading her eyes with her hand as she tried to discern the source of this unusual noise. Rounding the corner came a group of motorcycles, their chrome surfaces glistening in the sunlight. There were at least 8 of these powerful machines, and each rider was clad in sleek black leather jackets and dark helmets that concealed their identities. The unmistakable roar of their engines filled the neighborhood, and one by one, the bikes rolled to a stop directly in front of Kiara's lemonade stand. In an instant, the lively chatter from the basketball game across the street fell silent. Even Mrs. Andrews, ever the supportive neighbor, peeked through her curtains, her eyes widening in curiosity. As the bikers cut their engines, a profound silence fell over the street, broken only by the gentle clink of ice in Kiara's pitcher. Clutching the edge of her stand, Kiara's heart raced as her eyes widened with both apprehension and wonder. The largest biker dismounted his motorcycle with deliberate calm. He swung his leg off the bike. His jacket was adorned with mysterious patches that Kiara could not decipher, and his thick grey beard lent him an air of wisdom and gravitas. Slowly he lifted his helmet, revealing a face that, although weathered by time, exuded kindness. Despite the unreadable expression on his face, his deep voice, resonant and powerful like the rumble of the motorcycles, broke the silence. "Is this where I can get the best lemonade in town?" Kiara swallowed hard and managed a small, nervous smile. "Yes, sir. 50 cents a cup," she said softly, carefully enunciating the price in words. The man chuckled, reaching into his pocket and pulling out a crumpled dollar. "Make it 2, he said with a light-hearted tone. At that very moment, time itself seemed to freeze, and Kiara could only wonder about the unfolding events. The air grew thick with anticipation as the other bikers began dismounting their motorcycles one by one. Their heavy boots thudded against the pavement, and the leather jackets they wore were adorned with intricate designs, skulls, flames, and various names that Kiara did not recognize. The leader, still standing before her, gently handed her the crumpled dollar. With a surprisingly gentle touch, Kiara's fingers trembled as she carefully poured the lemonade into 2 paper cups. Although her mind raced with questions, who were these people? Why had they stopped at her stand? She did her best to maintain a pleasant smile. The leader took a thoughtful sip of the lemonade, allowing the cool, refreshing drink to linger on his tongue before nodding in quiet approval. "Not bad, kid," he said softly, breaking the heavy silence. "What's your name?" Kiara replied softly, glancing up at her mother, who watched nervously from the front porch. "I'm Kiara," she said with a mix of pride and uncertainty. "Well, Kiara, I think you've just gained yourself a whole new customer base," the man remarked with a friendly grin. Soon after, another biker stepped forward. This time it was a tall woman with long braided hair, her jacket boldly displaying the word, Sherry. With a decisive gesture, she dropped a $5 bill onto the counter. "I'll take 10 cups for the crew," she declared in a warm yet commanding voice. Kiara's eyes widened in astonishment, and she stammered, "10 cups? Yes, coming right up." She hurriedly grabbed extra cups and began pouring as the rest of the bikers gathered around her stand. Gradually, the initial tension in the air began to dissipate, transforming into a festive and friendly atmosphere. Before long, the bikers began to exchange light-hearted jokes with one another, complimenting Kiara's vibrant stand and even pulling out their wallets to tip her generously. "Do you make this lemonade yourself?" one biker in a thick southern drawl inquired, eliciting a gentle smile from Kiara. "Yes, sir," she replied confidently. "My mom helped, but it's all my recipe." Another biker, with a chuckle, added, "Kid's got talent," and handed her a $20 bill in exchange for 2 cups. Laughter filled the air as the bikers shared stories, clinking their lemonade cups together as if they were at a backyard barbecue. With each kind word and shared laugh, Kiara's initial apprehension melted away, replaced by a deep sense of acceptance and belonging. At one point, one of the younger bikers, who looked barely older than 20, crouched down to Kiara's level and asked with genuine curiosity, "What's the lemonade fund for anyway?" Kiara hesitated for a moment before answering, "I'm saving up for a school trip to the zoo." The entire group looked on with admiration, and Sherry shook her head with a light laugh. "Well, we can't just leave you hanging, can we?" she said kindly. Before Kiara could fully process the situation, the bikers began passing around a helmet as if it were a collection plate, dropping cash into it. The delightful clink of coins and the crinkle of bills filled the air, and Kiara's eyes grew wide in astonishment. "Here, sweetheart," Sherry said warmly as she handed the helmet back to Kiara. "That should cover more than just a zoo trip." Peeking inside, Kiara gasped at the sight. There were over $200 inside, far more than she had ever imagined earning in a single day. Thank you so much," she exclaimed, her voice trembling with excitement and gratitude. "You earned it, kid," the leader remarked as he finished his lemonade, adding, "because hard work deserves support." Then a change came over the mood. A burly man with a tattoo of an eagle on his arm grew quiet, his stern gaze softening as he looked at Kiara. In that moment, his rough exterior seemed to give way to something deeply emotional. "You remind me of my daughter," he murmured, his voice barely a whisper. The playful energy around them ceased, replaced by a respectful silence. Kiara tilted her head in surprise and asked, "Your daughter? The man nodded slowly. She passed away a few years ago. She was about your age and loved running little stands just like this. Seeing you here, it's like seeing a piece of her again. Kiara was at a loss for words, and her eyes shimmered with unshed tears. Her mother, Tasha, stepped forward and placed a comforting hand on Kiara's shoulder. "I'm sorry for your loss," Tasha said softly. The man offered a bittersweet smile. "Thanks. You know, helping you out today feels like honoring her memory, so thank you too." The group stood in quiet solidarity for a moment, until the leader clapped his hands and said, "All right, let's not turn this into a cry fest. We still have plenty of lemonade to sell." Laughter broke out once more, and a renewed sense of connection filled the air as the bikers began to prepare to leave. One of the bikers turned back with a promise. "We're going to spread the word about your stand, Kiara. You'll have customers lining up around the block by the end of the day." Kiara's heart swelled with gratitude as the bikers mounted their motorcycles, revving their engines in a respectful farewell salute. As they rode off, their presence left behind a powerful memory that would linger long after the sound of their engines faded away. Standing in stunned silence, Kiara gazed at the helmet filled with money that now sat on her lemonade stand, a silent testament to the day's extraordinary events. For a moment, the entire experience seemed like a dream. Her mother, Tasha, broke the spell with a gentle chuckle. "Well, baby, I think you just made more in one day than most lemonade stands do in a month," she said, her voice brimming with pride. Kiara looked up at her mother, her eyes wide with wonder, and asked, "Do you really think they meant that?" Just then, the sound of car doors slamming and the chatter of excited voices filled the air. A group of neighbors had gathered at the end of the street, drawn by the commotion. Among the onlookers was Mr. Harris, the owner of the local grocery store, along with several children who had been playing basketball earlier. One of the kids called out, "Hey Kiara, what's all this about bikers at your stand?" Kiara smiled nervously and replied, "They came by for lemonade, and they really bought a lot." Tasha chimed in, gesturing toward the helmet of cash that had become a symbol of the day's magic. Word had traveled quickly through Oak Ridge Heights, and within an hour more neighbors arrived. Some out of sheer curiosity, others eager to support Kiara's stand after hearing about her unexpected visitors. Before long, the humble lemonade stand transformed into the center of the community. Customers lined up for a taste of what was now being playfully called biker-approved lemonade. As Kiara served cup after cup of her tangy drink, she couldn't help but notice how the atmosphere had shifted. What had begun as a simple summer project had blossomed into something much larger. A symbol of community, kindness, and the power of small acts of generosity to spark enormous change. Strangers who rarely exchanged words were now laughing and conversing together. Parents shared stories of their children's entrepreneurial ventures, and even the neighborhood kids joined in, holding signs and directing traffic to the stand. Amid the growing crowd, Kiara noticed a familiar figure approaching, a burly biker with the eagle tattoo who had earlier shared the heartfelt story of his late daughter. He stood a short distance away, leaning against a tree with an expression that was difficult to read. Kiara hesitated, then looked up at her mother and asked softly, "Mum, do you think he's all right?" Tasha followed her daughter's gaze and replied, "Why don't you go find out? Sometimes people just need someone to listen." Gathering her courage, Kiara grabbed a cup of lemonade and walked steadily toward the man, her steps cautious but determined. When she reached him, Kiara extended the cup with a small, warm smile. "Here, it's on the house," she said kindly. The man looked down at the cup, surprised, and then accepted it with a gentle smile. "Thanks, kid," he murmured. They stood quietly for a moment, and then Kiara asked, "What was your daughter's name?" The man, visibly moved, replied slowly. He went on to explain that Mia had once run a stand very much like Kiara's, selling cookies and lemonade on weekends. Kiara smiled tenderly and said, "I bet she made really good cookies." The man chuckled softly, his voice tinged with lingering sadness. As their conversation unfolded, Kiara wondered aloud, "Do you think that helping me today was, in a way, like helping her?" The man's eyes softened, and he nodded slowly. "Yeah, I think it was," he replied quietly. Over the course of their gentle exchange, Kiara learned that the man's name was Doug. He explained how the loss of his daughter had left a deep, unfillable void in his life, and how witnessing Kiara's determination and warmth had reminded him so much of Mia's spirit. "I know I cannot bring her back," Doug said quietly, "but I can honor her memory by helping kids like you. That is why we bikers do what we do. Help where we can, even when no one expects it." Kiara looked up at him with gratitude in her eyes and said, "Thank you for helping me. It means so much." Doug gently placed a hand on her shoulder and advised, "Keep chasing your dreams, Kiara. You have a good heart. Never lose it." As Doug rejoined his biker crew on the opposite side of the street, Kiara felt a new sense of purpose welling up within her. The kindness she had received that day was not merely about money. It was about connections, hope, and the extraordinary power of community. After Doug and his friends departed, Kiara noticed a small, folded note tucked underneath the helmet filled with cash. With her heart racing, she carefully opened the note and read the handwritten words. "For the brightest light on a summer's day, keep shining." Tears welled in her eyes as she handed the note to her mother. "They didn't have to do all this," Kiara whispered softly. "No, but they wanted to," Tasha replied, wrapping her arms around her daughter in a tender embrace. As the sun began to set, casting a warm, golden glow over the quiet neighborhood, Kiara reflected on the day's events. She realized that the experience was about much more than lemonade or money. It was about people, the stories they carried, the kindness they shared, and the powerful connections that could change lives. By the following morning, the buzz around Kiara's lemonade stand had grown far beyond her wildest expectations. The bikers had kept their promise, spreading news about her stand on social media and through word-of-mouth posts. Pictures of Kiara and her humble stand flooded local Facebook groups, accompanied by heartfelt captions such as, "Support this young entrepreneur," and "Best lemonade in town," approved by some tough bikers with soft hearts. Before Kiara knew it, her first customers of the new day arrived. A long line of cars stretched down the block, filled with parents, children, elderly couples, and even workers on their lunch breaks, all eager to sample the now legendary lemonade. "Wow, look at this crowd," Tasha exclaimed as she peeked out the front door. "Kiara, you're going to need an assembly line," Kiara laughed, though she felt a twinge of overwhelm at the sheer number of people. Her best friend, Mia, always ready to lend a hand, had come by to help, and together they served cup after cup of refreshing lemonade. The stand had transformed into a vibrant hub of community activity. Neighbors who rarely exchanged greetings were now mingling and chatting about everything from their favorite summer treats to the unexpected kindness of the bikers. Kiara's lemonade had evolved into a symbol of something much greater, a testament to the idea that even small acts of generosity can create far-reaching ripples of change. As the day progressed, a man named Carlos, who ran the nearby hardware store, approached Kiara and handed her a crisp $20 bill. "We need more kids like you in this world," he said sincerely. Kiara, her hands still sticky from pouring lemonade non-stop, smiled and said, "Thank you, sir." The crowd continued to grow, and soon Tasha stepped in to help keep everything organized. She made several trips to the kitchen to prepare more lemonade, while Kiara and Mia served their customers with warmth and efficiency. Even some of the neighborhood children joined in, holding signs at street corners to direct people to the stand. By mid-afternoon, although supplies were beginning to dwindle, Kiara's spirits remained high. She had already raised far more than her original goal for the zoo trip. "I think we're going to need a bigger picture," Mia joked, wiping sweat from her forehead as they worked together. As the afternoon wore on, the familiar roar of motorcycle engines returned. This time, the bikers came back with even more of their crew. They parked their motorcycles in a neat row and waved at the enthusiastic crowd like local celebrities. "We couldn't stay away," Doug said with a wide grin, handing Kiara a box of freshly baked cookies that he thought would pair perfectly with her lemonade. The bikers then jumped into action, helping to manage the ever-growing line and entertaining the children who gathered around to marvel at their impressive motorcycles. Sherry even brought out a camera, snapping candid photos of Kiara with her bustling stand and the joyful crowd. "I think we just broke the record for the busiest lemonade stand in Indiana," Sherry laughed as the day began to wind down. Shortly thereafter, Carlos and a few other neighbors proposed an unexpected idea. "You've got something really special going on here, Kiara," Carlos said. "What if we made this a regular event? Maybe once a month. We could set up stands like this all over town and donate the money to local kids programs." Kiara's eyes lit up with excitement as she replied, You mean like a lemonade day? Exactly, Carlos confirmed. You could be the inspiration for it. The crowd erupted in applause at the idea, and Kiara felt a warm glow in her chest. Her little lemonade stand had sparked a movement, a spark that could grow into something far greater. By sunset, the final customer had been served, and the bikers prepared to leave once more. Doug approached Kiara with a serious yet kind expression. "Kiara," he said, "you are living proof that even the smallest ideas can bring people together. Keep dreaming big." Nodding firmly, Kiara clutched the note Doug had given her the day before and replied, "I will, Doug. Thank you for everything." As the bikers rode off into the fading light, Kiara looked around at her mother, her best friend, and the now empty lemonade stand. What had started as a simple goal had grown into something beyond her wildest dreams. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the quieting neighborhood, Kiara sat on the front steps of her house, reflecting on the unforgettable day. Later that evening, after the excitement had subsided and the stand was finally folded and packed away, Kiara and her mother Tasha sat together on the front steps. The day's events had left behind more than just a clean lawn. They had forged a lasting legacy of kindness and connection. Tasha joined her daughter, carrying 2 glasses of lemonade from the last batch, and handed one to Kiara. "So, how does it feel to have run the most successful lemonade stand Oak Ridge Heights has ever seen?" Tasha asked with admiration. Kiara chuckled as she took a sip and replied, "It feels amazing. Not just because of the money, but because I never knew something so small could bring so many people together." Tasha nodded thoughtfully, clearly moved by the day's incredible impact. "That's the power of kindness," Kiara continued. "When you give, even in small ways, it inspires others to do the same, and when people come together, great things happen." Kiara then looked at the helmet filled with cash that now sat beside her, far more money than she needed for her zoo trip, and asked, "Mum, do you think we could donate some of this money to help kids who can't afford school trips or supplies?" Tasha's eyes filled with pride as she replied, "I think that's a wonderful idea." In that moment, Kiara reflected on Doug's story, his words about his daughter, and the generous spirit of the bikers who had gone out of their way to support her. "I want to make people feel the way they made me feel today. Like anything is possible," Kiara said softly as the stars began to twinkle in the night sky. Overwhelmed with gratitude, she realized that her humble lemonade stand had started as a small dream, but had blossomed into something far greater. A lesson in generosity, the strength of community, and the unexpected ways people can transform each other's lives. In the days that followed, Kiara's story spread throughout Oak Ridge Heights and beyond. Neighbors, friends, and even strangers marveled at the young entrepreneur who had turned a small lemonade stand into a symbol of hope and kindness. Kiara continued to work hard, saving every penny she earned for her school trip, while cherishing the memory of the day that had changed everything. Every act of kindness she received reminded her that success is measured not only in money, but in the love and support of a caring community. As the cool evening air settled and the neighborhood returned to its peaceful rhythm, Kiara drifted off to sleep each night with dreams full of new ideas and the determination to continue spreading kindness. She knew that even the smallest act, like setting up a lemonade stand, had the power to ignite change and build lasting connections among people. And so, with each new day, Kiara promised herself to keep chasing her dreams and to never underestimate the transformative power of kindness. This remarkable day, filled with unexpected visitors, heartfelt conversations, and the gentle reminder that every act of generosity creates ripples of change, would remain etched in Kiara's memory forever. It was a day when a simple lemonade stand became a beacon of hope and community, a day when strangers became friends and dreams grew bigger than ever before. And as Kiara continued to nurture her dream, she carried with her the lessons of that unforgettable summer day, lessons that would inspire her for a lifetime. Ultimately, Kiara learned that the true measure of success is not in the profits earned, but in the impact one makes on the lives of others. Her lemonade stand had not only raised money for a field trip, it had united a community, fostered a spirit of generosity, and demonstrated that even the smallest dream, can lead to monumental change. With this newfound understanding, Kiara looked forward to the future with hope, knowing that kindness, when shared, has the power to change the world. And as the stars shone brightly above Oak Ridge Heights, Kiara knew that every challenge she faced could be overcome with determination, hard work, and a generous heart. She was ready to embrace the future, one filled with endless possibilities, deep connections, and the unwavering belief that kindness truly has the power to transform lives.